Hello and welcome to another episode of the Shadow People podcast. As always, I'm your host Jason, and today we're going to talk about the 2018 horror Hereditary. Somebody get that intro. Alright, so far since I've started this podcast, I've only talked about 80s horror, and I've had a couple of friends tell me, hey, can you do something recently? Do something for the kids, because we all love the kids. If you remember George Carlin, he said, fuck the kids. But, that's comedy. We're here to do horror. Alright, so today we're going to discuss the 2018 horror film Hereditary. If you have not seen it yet, warning, warning, warning. This podcast contains spoilers. I love the mother and father of Hereditary. Gabriel Byrne and Toni Collette are great actors. Gabriel Byrne's been in such horrors as End of Day, Stigmata, and other greats as The Usual Suspect. Great freaking actor. I've always loved Gabriel Byrne. He does a great job playing the father in this film. Toni Collette as the mother, holy shit, her acting is great. From the beginning of this film is amazing. The grandmother of this family has passed away, and the mother is grieving. And the mother is grieving. I believe they inherit the house. I love how creative they got with the opening scene. It starts off with a dollhouse, like a wide shot of the dollhouse. And from that wide shot, it just closes into a room, and then you see the family interacting. And the cinematography and the editing in that shot freaking blows my mind. And what I love what they did with that shot, that it's a metaphor for how the rest of the movie goes. It's basically a metaphor for other forces that are at play in the lives of this family and the story that progresses. The first 20-30 minutes are almost slow. It's a slow burn, but it's building up. If you're probably going to have to watch this film a few times before you can really understand all the odds and ends. There's a lot of stuff that I missed the first couple of times. I had to keep up, and this film has had mixed reviews. I've had a lot of people tell me that they thought it was horseshit, which I disagree, but everybody's entitled to their own opinion. The little girl's character of Charlie is very spooky, from the very beginning. She takes off a bird's head, and it's just very disturbing. Some people say that they didn't like it, that they seemed that it was out of place, and this whole movie is eerie. Haven't been ever scared by a film since I was probably a kid, but this one, the entire length of the movie, I was uneasy. There was something disturbing about, just the whole aura of the film. A lot of the things that people are saying that a lot of it didn't make sense, but if you really pay attention, there's a lot of foreshadowing in the film. The whole metaphor for the dollhouse is showing that there's other people into play. So when the mother meets the character of Ruth, who had said she had lost her son, they're going through a grieving process. That was by no accident. If you actually look, there's a stack of letters that are trying to get her to go see a psychic or to go do a seance. There's a lot of parts in this film that were trying to lead this family to the end. What I liked about this film, what I talked about in last week's episode, were how all those films have those iconic shots. Sleepaway Camp had Angela, with the penis. Exorcist had, the vomiting. And Hereditary had this shot. Once the character of Charlie, the little girl, gets decapitated, it's that part just First, my jaw fucking dropped. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. And when you see it, it's fucking gruesome. The makeup was amazing. The cinematography was awesome. And a lot of people were saying, how did they know that was gonna happen? There's no way that could have been a pure coincidence. But if you look at the telephone, when they go back to the telephone pole, it had the markings of that satanic cult. So basically going with the metaphor of the dollhouse, how other people are coming into play with this family. After I watched it, I was convinced that this is also maybe a metaphor for mental illness. If you notice the number of people that get decapitated, Charlie doesn't seem normal. She has the clicking noise. The grandmother was seen as having dementia, and the mother sort of feared her in a way. The number of people setting fires to each other, the number of decapitations. What I love about this film is it has a real gritty, like 1970s, almost satanic panic type of film. If you remember films like Roman Polanski's Rosemary's Baby, just one of the mother of all fucking satanic films. How basically everybody around Damien was sent to protect him and stuff like that. It had a real 70s feel to it with a modern twist. The satanic cult. This was a satanic cult that worshipped the god Paimon, P-A-I-M-O-N. He was one of the 8 kings of hell. After further research, I found out that this is a real person. Basically, it's a real deity that's been worshipped for quite some centuries. I thought it was great how they used a real deity for people who worship him. Let's talk for a second about Charlie's decapitation scene, which is my favorite scene of the film, and it's one of my favorite fucking scenes that I've seen in a long time. So Peter, Charlie's older brother, is invited to a party by some of his friends. His mom lets him go on the condition that he takes Charlie with him. He reluctantly agrees. As they get to the party, Charlie makes him promise not to leave her, which he quickly does when he's offered marijuana. The dangers of marijuana. So Peter goes to smoke. As he's going to smoke, somebody offered Charlie a piece of cake, which one of the main ingredients was nuts, which she is deathly allergic to. As Peter and his friends are smoking in the other room, Charlie enters the room and she says she can't breathe. She starts doing the clicking noise and Peter agrees to take her home, rushing her to the hospital. As he's rushing her to the hospital, she sticks her head out of the window for air. As soon as her head pops out of the car window, she's met by a pole and her demise. Peter, the brother, being in so much fucking shock. As soon as he fucking gets home, he parks the fucking car, goes to bed. And then the mom he's woken up to the mom screaming. As soon as the mom screams, is when they show Charlie's decapitated head, which is one of the most gruesome scenes that I've seen in a long time. It literally had me on the edge of my seat, like, what the fuck is going on here? A lot of people are confused about the ending. From what I've got for it, and I'm not sure if I'm totally right. I had to watch it a few times. I've only seen it 3 times. I want to watch it a couple more just to make sure. Basically, the mother, Toni Collette, her mother was involved in a satanic cult who worshipped the god Paimon. Their entire plan was almost Rosemary Baby-ish, and the omen was basically to give birth to this, second coming of Satan. Their entire plan was to get the deity reborn through Peter, because the deity Paimon could only be born through a male, which is why it did need Charlie to die. This film was written and directed by Ari Aster, who's also directed some films such as Munchausen and The Strange, mostly dramas. This one is considered a mystery thriller, but it's horror all the way. What I loved about this film is it didn't rely on a whole lot of jump scares. All of the fear came from real places. There was a lot of parts where you were expecting that jump scare to come out and it didn't, and it just left you that more creeped out because that person just kept coming at you slowly and slowly, and then they turn away and crawl up and crawl off. It made it that much more. In Peter's fun fact, in Peter's first scene at school, on the chalkboard reads "Escaping the Fate," which is also what's written on the chalkboard in the original 1978 classic horror Halloween from John Carpenter. Ari Aster said this film was heavily influenced by the 1989 film The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover. What I loved is Ari Aster wanted most, if not all, effects to be practical and not special effects. The film was shot in 32 days. The special effects team had to do several special effects that they had never done before. For example, is making the candles light themselves and making the chalk write for themselves, which they used magnets to do so. Both Alex Wolff and Millie Shapiro had attended the same school and had already knew each other before playing brother and sister in this film. This film was shot in Park City, Utah. This film had a 75-page cinematography shot list before locations had even been scouted out. That's freaking awesome, and that's pretty tough to do. Well, that's all we have this week for the Shadow People podcast, where we discuss the 2018 film Hereditary. See you next week. Somebody get that intro.